Welcome to the Dvar Torah for Parsha Rabbi, brought to you by Be There Israel and Or Chadash. This week's Parsha opens up with the word Rabbi Anochi Noten Lifnechem Hayom Bracha V'Klala. See, Rabbi, I am putting before you today a blessing and a curse. This Parsha always comes in very, very close proximity to Rosh Chodesh Elul. As we know, when Rosh Chodesh Elul comes, the alarms start going off. Rosh Hashanah's 1 month away. Like, wake up. So this Parsha, the opening words of this Parsha are perfectly connected to Rosh Chodesh. Because God is saying, I am putting before you today a blessing and a curse. And then the Parsha explains in brief what the blessing is and what the curse is. Blessing is if you listen to the words of God, and the curse is if you don't listen to the words of God. Later in the book of Devarim, Moshe Rabbeinu spells it out in great detail, what it means to listen to the words of God and the blessings that will come, and also Chas v'shalom, the curses that will come for not listening. But here we're at the beginning, near Rosh Chodesh Elul. So we want to apply this to getting ready for a new year. We see that the initial letter of the word for bracha, blessing, is a bet, which equals 2. And the initial letter for curse, klala, is a kuf, which equals 100. You add them together, you get 102, which equals emunah, faith. So what are we being told here? That it's actually not as clear as we may think what's a blessing and what's a curse. God says, I'm putting before you a blessing and a curse. So on the surface it seems, okay, that's clear enough, like light and darkness. But if we really look at our lives, we look at the world around us, we look at friends, family, there are so many cases with what at first appears to be a curse, or what we would call a negative occurrence, that turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to us. And the opposite also happens quite often. That things that we think are a blessing turn out not to be such a blessing. Maybe they came a little bit too easy. Maybe they came through ways that maybe are not appropriate. And at the time it seemed like a blessing. But in retrospect, it turns out to be just the opposite. So there's an expression of the sages that was given over by a man named Nachum, Rabbi Nachum. He was actually the teacher of Rabbi Akiva. And he was wont to say, Gam zu l'tova. This is also for the good. And usually he was talking about what appeared to be a negative incident that seemed clear that this was not so good. But he would always say, Gam zu l'tova, because he had faith that ultimately everything is for the good. We just have to have the eyes to see it. And that takes us back to the opening word, ra'eh. Look, see. So we could ask, can you really see with your eyes what a bracha is and what a klala is? Well, sometimes yes. Sometimes we see a situation and it's clear that this is a blessed situation. And other times we see something about to go down and we could see very clearly it's leading to something not good. But on a deeper level, what it's really talking about is the sight of the soul. Not so much our own physical sight, but the ability to see through the first appearances of blessing and curse to see that ultimately it can all be a blessing if we interpret it that way, just like Gam Zulatova. And this is very much like a dream. We're told that a dream goes according to its interpretation. So even if someone has a nightmare, has a very disturbing dream, but then finds a way to interpret it for the good. And in fact, the Gemara says, better a bad dream than a good dream. Why? A good dream is something we could forget in 2 minutes. But when we have a bad dream, like, it leaves an impression. And if it leaves an impression, then the hope is it will lead to a change of consciousness, a change of action. So the Gemara actually says, better a bad dream than a good dream. And life, in a sense, is like a dream. How many songs and poems have been written with those words, that life is like a dream? But in a sense, it is, because life goes according to our interpretation as well. If we think about it, every day, scores of things happen to us. Through talking to people, through work, through study, through relationships, through interacting with the world. And each one of these occurrences is open to interpretation. That's why two people can go through the exact same experience and have a completely different take on it. One person thinks this was like really a negative experience, and the other person will be like totally surprised, like, oh, it's so positive. Same experience, same factors. They were both there at the same time. And in a sense, all of life is open to interpretation. So going back to the opening verse of this Parsha, when God says, I put before you a blessing and a curse, we have to know that ultimately, even a curse, or what appears to be a curse, can be turned to the good. And if we're not careful, a bracha can be turned to the opposite as well. But on a higher level, if we have the emunah, the numerical value of the first letters of these two words, bracha and klala, if we have faith and we nurture that faith, then we come to see that everything is truly for the good. Thanks for watching this Devar Torah. If you like what you heard, which I hope you did, please come to our YouTube station, our website, our Facebook, our blog, our Twitter, and take advantage of a plethora of Torah, of audio classes, videos, poetry, stories, music, word and gematria search. You'll find a lot there, and please share this with your friends. www.thetrugmans.com